Let's get a few more minutes. Rolling.
You think everybody's freaking out about price action?
Yeah, everyone's running to deposit their funds at the exchange and get out. Will we hit like 53K? Dude, like, I don't even care. It's like, it's so silly. 53.7. It's like, geez, guys, we have a $50,000 Bitcoin. That's amazing. What are you guys freaking out about?
Yeah.
I don't know. Just after last March, or like the COVID March kickoff, where everyone was just freaking out. It's like, I'm still in heaven over here. This is great. Listen, I'm not like Mr. Moneybags, but like, I really never really foresaw I was getting to 50K this quickly. So
Yeah, man, after buying at like 4,000 during that dip, it's just like this is just all gravy from here. It goes up, it goes down, doesn't care. I mean, we've got all the factors that make the number go up. So all the stuff going on in the world just makes a better and better case as time goes on.
yeah, I mean, let's be real. Let's look at the greater macro environment. I mean, yeah, short term, like, markets probably aren't going to do too hot. There might be a major dip, but like, as far as Bitcoin as a safe haven asset, we're just scraping the surface. Like, we're still in a world where 90% of the people don't even know what the hell Bitcoin is, right?
It's true.
Right. And, in the next few years, like, a whole lot of people are going to find out one way or the other. At some point or another, hopefully before they're put into too much financial duress. But that's inevitability. That's a lot of people are going to get burnt in their own traditional fiat currency or traditional markets before they take the plunge over into the orange coin. So yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
short term things can look chaotic, but with most things, you got to take that mile high view and see, like, yeah, like, this is incredible. Like, if you have patience, you're not overextending yourself, you have a good strategy, and you stick to it, you know, especially if you have a fiat job, then it's really easy. You just figure out what you can allocate it to it every month and just go into it. If you could mine, that's even better, without having to kill yourself. Don't go and buy 1,000 miners, but also a really good option. But anyway, price action is, really the least of our concerns. And I know some people don't think that way. Some people a little higher in their time preference. But
Yeah.
here at Lightning Friday, we are looking at the big picture of things. If we're looking at a small time frame, we're
So
looking at new releases, new pieces of software that are coming out, events of that nature. And if you got to talk price, unfortunately, this is probably not the space/podcast for you. So sorry about that. But we got a lot of awesome stuff to talk about this week between news and releases. I think the biggest thing that I want to talk to you about, Jestopher, is your experience down in El Salvador. It sounds like you were down there for a week or two, really taking in the sights, the experiences there, and taking in a lightning conference or two. Um, yeah,
yeah, both Tony and I went down there, and we were both speaking about Amboss at the adopting Bitcoin conference, and that was hosted by Galoy. So that's the wallet company behind Bitcoin Beach, and they put on a fantastic conference. And it was at the it was in San Salvador. That's the capital of El Salvador, and very much a city, quite quite developed, and it was wild to be there. But the conference was fantastic. Really amazing speakers, and just getting to talk to everyone that was building on Lightning. This was remarkably builder focused. There was also another conference going on at the same time, which was La BitConf, and that's the Latin American Bitcoin conference, and that was going on at the same time, and that was catering to some other cryptos as well as Bitcoin. But the Adopting Bitcoin conference that we were speaking at was just Bitcoin and especially Lightning focused.
Sweet. Was there any crossover? Do you guys get to go to Love BitConf at all, or you guys are just focused on adopting Bitcoin?
We were focused on adopting Bitcoin, but a lot. I mean, the other conference was just like around the corner, so there was lots of crossover. Folks were staying at the same hotel for the most part. If you wanted to learn about stuff happening on other chains, like you could. Lots of folks were very into the NFTs and whatnot. But I think the place that I was comfortable doing crossover was probably around like stable coins and such, because I think that's a big interest for folks in Lightning.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's a lot of talks of people having dreams of being able to go into like a USDT or USDC sort of stable coin on Lightning. And we're just really not quite there yet. I know there's efforts like OmniBolt, which is building on OmniLayer, and what the guys at Bitfinex have built out. Could be a possibility in the future, but it's not compatible with typical Lightning clients. So maybe that could take off if they have like a regular BTC LN functionality in it. But it's hard because you're locking up capital in a payment channel, and that payment channel has to be denominated in a certain currency. If you were to add something like a Tether coin to the mix, it would sort of have to be his own channel, at least from the way I'm looking at things.
Yeah, I did get a couple of questions about stablecoins following my talk, and my response was that it's I can understand that when people are thinking about getting into Bitcoin, they need to have some sort of exit, because I think what they're afraid of is price action and volatility. And those are the fears as I see it, because the more they look into it, you get more comfort when it comes to like the protocol risk and just how it all works, and it functions, and it works as a payment method, and your money is not going anywhere, it's not disappearing. But eventually people will get over the volatility risk. The longer you're in I think the less and less you care about price action. But I do have to recognize that people are like not really prepared for Bitcoin. There's not a lot of education that happened before this law passed, and it seems like it kind of came as a surprise to the people in El Salvador. They saw this thing happening. Everybody downloads the Chivo wallet and gets their $30. But now what? How do you do this right? Is this something that you want to invest in? Because like savings is not really part of the vocabulary yet. That's what I noticed. So like any opportunity that we were getting, and those were like mostly Uber rides around San Salvador. Those were our major opportunities to talk to people about what their impression was of this Bitcoin law that passed, and how are they feeling about this whole change that's happening. What are the thoughts on Bitcoin?
Yeah. Well, it seems to me, okay, so number one, you're talking about a population that's generally like less well off than we are, being from the States, right? And they're living more paycheck to paycheck. Their expenses are denominated in US dollar, right? So uh, there are a lot of people that are getting into Bitcoin, but at the end of the day, they're still converting it over into dollars so that they can pay their bills. So that's one thing I observe from afar. And the other thing is like it seems like there's just so much. I mean, Bitcoin Beach and the surrounding communities. There's definitely adoption happening. Small merchants too. It's really cool to see. But there's a giant chunk of the populace that has bad associations with, not only just Bukele but the government as a whole, and they have an inherent distrust of the El Salvadoran government, and they pretty much think that Bitcoin is just a ruse that's going to just empower Bukele, who they see as a dictator, rightfully so in a lot of ways, and just that long-standing distrust that's been built up over generations, rightfully so too, over there.
I was on the lookout for that, where people were thinking like, oh, like we totally have a dictator and all this, but everyone that I talked to actually had good things to say about Bukele. And then there was one of the translators for adopting Bitcoin, and they were translating all the talks into Spanish. And at some point, she stopped to ask a question of Alex Svetsky, who gave this really like inciting talk, where he was talking about all these shitcoiners and all this stuff, and kind of Bitcoin as the remnant, which and she stopped to ask a question, and she was saying that her father has been really against Bitcoin just because he doesn't trust President Bukele. But everything that she had heard from this Bitcoin conference really made her want to rethink that, because the talks that were being given were all about how like Bitcoin is freedom from these governments, whether it be a dictator or a bureaucratic democracy, or whatever your situation is. It gives you like order where that does not need to come from a government, and gives you freedom to choose kind of how you want to organize things. And yeah, I guess we organize things into blocks. But it was pretty eye opening. So a lot of people were very supportive of President Bukele. As an outsider, watching some of the things that came out, he like Bukele used the profits from the Bitcoin investment to make a pet hospital. That was one of the developments. And like before I went there, I had no idea what that all was about. Like, why would you spend all this stuff on a pet hospital? I mean, it's kind of a dumb use. Like, you could just buy Bitcoin with that. But after we went there, and we went to El Zonte, which is like Bitcoin Beach, and we were walking back to our Airbnb, Tony and I, and these like stray dogs started chasing after us, and they all are, I guess, how do I say this, fertile, or like they were not fixed at all. So I can see if you've got these if you've got all these stray dogs running around that are not fixed. I did find out that the pet hospital was actually the first veterinary hospital in the entire country. So like that, it really opens things up. Like, oh, okay, this is a real problem that people have been experiencing. I mean, how are you supposed to get these stray dogs or stray animals fixed if there's no pet hospital? So that was a big eye-opening thing, that it's like, hey, the president is actually responding to what people need and what the country needs. Whereas before, when I was looking at it, thinking, well, that's it's more of a nice to have, but I do see now it's more of a need.
Damn. Just amenities and services rather that you sort of take for granted here. They're just putting into place now. That's pretty interesting. Damn. And just like a full proper hospital, like multi-story thing that he's built out there.
Yeah, yeah. I'm not sure about all of the details, but if it's a start and it helps people out with what they're experiencing, it sounds like a, a good investment in what your people need. You did mention that it's like a poorer country. So just for context, most of our Uber rides around San Salvador were on the order of like $3 or $4, which is like the starting cost in the U.S. For an Uber. So I guess you can add that to your context.
Damn, that's crazy. Um, okay, so if you're cool with it, let's get into like how you were spending Bitcoin over there. So I guess like my first question is, what percent of like retailers and services were you able to pay for with Bitcoin?
Yeah. Let's see. At just about every place that we went to, we asked if we could pay in Bitcoin. All that we were staying at got pretty tired of us asking. Um, and whenever we would ask, like folks would show up with like a phone or a tablet, Chivo on it. And when they pulled out Chivo, we had heard that there were some issues paying Chivo, that like all of the Lightning functions were kind of hidden. And what we found when folks actually showed up with the tablet, that the QR code that was shown, first of all, it would like default to dollars. So you could pay this Chivo invoice with a QR code, and it would convert to dollars. So none of the Bitcoiners wanted that. We all wanted to like pay in Bitcoin and have it stay in Bitcoin. So we would pretty much just like take the tablet out of their hands and like go to the other function where it was like receive Lightning.
Phones like use a Blue Wallet or
Something like that. Sorry. 1 second, having a bit of phone issues.
Yeah, no worries. Sorry, folks, going through some technical difficulties as we often do on Twitter Spaces. But we will be back, hopefully. So guys, if you guys have any questions you would like to ask, you could DM me or Jestopher. And
There we go.
there we go. Okay. So you were saying Chivo was, people were pulling out Chivo and it indicated that they were converting it to dollars, and you were trying to avoid that. Number one, to avoid the Lightning issues, but also to avoid it being converted. So you wanted to keep that Bitcoin circular economy going.
Yeah. so at one of the places that we went to, we switched it over to the Bitcoin side, and then that's when like the staff like stopped us, and they were saying, no, we don't have approval to receive the Bitcoin. Like the management hasn't signed off on this.
Gotcha.
So it's just like, okay, well, you just, none of us want to sell Bitcoin and have it go to dollars. So we really want the circular economy. But anyways, we would switch it over to the Lightning function and then try and scan this QR code that was being generated by Chivo for Lightning. And using our wallets, it would say, can't read this invoice. And so we were all pretty stunned because like, here's this Lightning invoice, but turns out that it is like in this like Chivo proprietary format. So we really can't use a standard Lightning wallet to pay this Chivo invoice for Lightning. And so all of us were like really frustrated with this because like, why would they, it was confusing for us. Like, why would Chivo make a proprietary invoice that could only be used with Chivo? Something was up there, and I still haven't really gotten a good answer about it. But apparently it will work like Chivo to Chivo. But like, here we have this open protocol where it's all compatible, and suddenly when this law gets passed, like, everyone has Chivo wallet, they got the $30, but now it's locking them into this like proprietary invoice. So that was pretty disappointing, and I really hope that Chivo like wakes up to that or makes changes so that they can actually receive true Lightning payments that stay in Bitcoin.
Well, that's a load of shit, huh? Yeah, that's really disappointing.
Yeah,
I had no
like,
idea. I've heard about issues in which the Chivo wallet was not seeing payments come up after they were paid from external wallets. But this news of a sort of proprietary Chivo to Chivo format is new to me, and it's quite discouraging to hear about. Did you happen to like grab the format of it from the QR or anything?
We didn't record any of that. We did. I did try and download Chivo, but in order to activate it, you need a driver's license from El Salvador, from what I saw. So didn't have that. So couldn't really get the full user experience of using Chivo. But the third day of the conference happened in El Zonte, and it was basically just an open day where you could kind of experience El Zonte, Bitcoin Beach, and that was a completely different experience. So there were a couple of street vendors out there. One of them was selling some like fried potato mix in like it was kind of like an empanada, potato empanada, and there was also like this fantastic barbecue and also some what is it, the ceviche. And all of those,
that looked delicious.
Oh, it was really good. Yeah, way too good. Now each of these street vendors had a printed out QR code that was laminated, and it was all Bitcoin Beach. So I went to like scan the QR code with Blue Wallet, and it's like, no, that's not a Lightning invoice. But then I was told, oh, just scan it with your camera, and it's a link to open up this website. And so I scanned it, and it creates, opens up a web page, and it shows like, here's the store, and it has you enter the amounts that you're going to pay, and then it will generate a Lightning invoice for you. And so then I had no issues paying, and I think most most of us were using custodial wallets because those had like really high reliability. I was able to pay one thing with Zeus. Of course, I'm like connecting like through Tor, like on like roaming data, like international roaming. So it, like in-person transactions, like uh, I'm not sure if I'm going to like choose to use my own node, where it was like small stuff. So I was thinking like, oh, I'll probably just use custodial wallet of Satoshi, Blue Wallet, and those had really high reliability. So I was able to pay those no problem. Let's see. I mean, of course there were like some failures that happened, just like lose internet and stuff. But just actually being able to spend Lightning in person was fantastic. For the day of the conference, most people had one person out there with a phone that could actually verify that they had received the Lightning transaction. But the fried potato place, they actually didn't have a phone there or anyone verifying that they had received the transaction. And so the thing to do there is you pretty much just like show them that you scanned the invoice and pretty much enter the amount that you're going to pay, and then show them that the invoice was paid. So it's basically just like let them watch you enter the stuff into your phone. Like not a big issue. So that means that like you can participate in like an in-person Lightning purchase without needing any technology really from the vendor side that is right there in person. So that was a very hopeful experience, and it seemed like everyone in El Zonte was accepting Bitcoin, or at least had someone to accept Bitcoin for them.
That's awesome. So I added a couple of guys to the mix. We got Nate. He's on stage. He is support engineer from Voltage. Really awesome. A cloud hosted service for Lightning nodes. We also added Andrew, who seems to work at Galoy, which is the author of the Bitcoin Beach wallet. Andrew also shared some tweets that I've added to the space. The second one is a tutorial on how Chivo merchants can generate open LN invoices. So it seems like they may default to that Chivo format, but with a couple of hoops you jump through, you can generate normal LN addresses, which isn't ideal, but at least it's there, so that's good. And we got a second tweet over here, the first one that's up at the top, from our buddy Stephen Delorme. Stephen Delorme is a grantee at Bitcoin Design. He actually has been doing all the new branding work on Zeus, and he's been doing blogs about his experiences in El Salvador. He's got like 7 or 8 days of blogs, maybe more, something like that, though. But they've been really insightful, and he's been talking about his experiences, dealing with the locals there and spending Bitcoin on the ground. So highly recommend you guys check those out. Cool. So before we go on, Nate or Andrew, do you guys want to chime in with anything?
No, how's it going, man? You guys covered kind of what I was going to ask. I was kind of curious what the format actually looked like when the QR was decoded into text form. But like you said, it's proprietary. But no, man, everything's going good. I just moved to Texas. It took me 2 weeks to get internet, but my node has surprisingly jumped back in the rankings pretty quick, so I'm pretty happy.
Pretty good. Are you down in ATX with the rest of the Bitcoiners, or somewhere else?
Texas, but the Houston area. So I'll be driving to Austin, but it's just a little bit cheaper, a little bit more wide open. Which is kind of what I was looking
that drive is nice, though, at least.
Oh yeah, it's a real casual drive. I like it a lot, actually.
Nice. Well, I'm glad things are going well. I'll hit you up if I'm back down there. I'm
Yeah,
gotta make
for sure.
another trip to Texas for sure. Cool.
I was just going to jump in and sort of echo some of the things that Jestopher was saying. And yeah, thanks for pinning those articles. The sort of the UX of Bitcoin as money is in El Salvador is something that we've been at Galloway obviously keen to follow along on. So I see you shared that last post, which I helped write an article. I mean, it's like a guide practically, really taking all the learnings from Bitcoin Beach and the development of the Bitcoin Beach wallet. One of them is what Jesper was mentioning, which is like if you're making pupusas and you want to accept Bitcoin, Mike Peterson always says like removing friction is the key, right? You have to make it better than accepting whatever they're accepting now, which was cash. And so using those sort of scannable QR codes so that the merchant didn't have to wash their hands, open their phone, create an invoice, and kind of take them away from what they're doing was one of the insights that drove that initially, and that predated the sort of some of the more modern invoice methods that are coming along here. So so that was that one, and then one last thing we had a chat yesterday, a Spaces with Stephen DeLorme, where he kind of spoke about his experience and shared some of the things he learned, which was pretty fascinating, considering like some of them were about like cameras on Androids, not auto-focusing on QR codes, like really just identifying some really interesting UX challenges or opportunities down there. So stay tuned for that. We'll share that from the Galloway and the Adopting Bitcoin Twitter handles once we post that, probably tomorrow, in the next day or so. So thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for the insight. Really appreciate it. And yeah, keep up the good work. We hear lots of great things about the Bitcoin Beach wallet, and just really excited to see you guys helping facilitate the growth of that community. So that's awesome.
Cheers. Thanks.
All right, Jeff.
Yeah, I really appreciate all the work that Galoy has like put into Bitcoin Beach and just having those like being very thoughtful about kind of the user experience, because I did get 2 Uber drivers to actually install Bitcoin Beach wallet, and I sent them like their first like sats that I knew would remain in Satoshis. And that was just a fantastic experience, because like it was in Spanish by default, and they were able to pretty much get through all of the setup process without really needing my help. Of course, like I sent them some sats, and then I had them send me a little bit back so that they could practice. Yeah, it was a really nice experience. Now, with that, since you mentioned the like difficulty focusing on the QR code, is there any thinking about how to address that user experience wise?
I was actually blown away. I see Felix actually joining. He was in the chat yesterday too. I was really intrigued by some of the UX challenges that were surfaced, and like my mind went directly to like, wow, we really need to document all of these, all the issues that folks are having. Like Nicholas, our founder, our co-founder, mentioned sort of as he opened the Adopting Bitcoin conference, his position was like, we're having this here to bring you all here because there's so much work to do, right? Like the law was just the beginning. And we need education, we need, user experience improvements, et cetera. And so, the issue with the camera, Felix yesterday shared some issues he had paying in a supermarket. It's just so much so fast for much of El Salvador, right? Like El Zonte is used to using Bitcoin. It's been a sort of an ongoing education process over time, but for much of the country, it's not that smooth yet. And so it's a long-winded way of saying, like, I don't know that we have ideas yet on how to solve that. I think it's, from my perspective, we're more at the stage of like, let's figure out a proper way to document these and ensure that people are aware that they exist so that we can bring the community together to solve them.
I want to ask, have you looked into or anything of the Oshi app by Michael Atwood and his buddy? Because they do something really interesting.
So I saw Michael's presentation at the conference, which was awesome, and I've been kind of following along a little bit. But I'd love to hear a little bit about what you're talking about.
Yeah. So essentially, the customer's phone is the user interface. So like the merchant registers as a merchant with the app, puts their menu on, and then the customer notices that, brings the menu up, says they want to buy whatever. They buy it with Lightning, and then essentially the customer has a QR code that the merchant scans, saying that they bought the item, and then they get the item. In a very simple way. There's a reward structure there also, but that's kind of the basics.
That's cool. I need to dig a little bit deeper into that. I'd love to check that out and see what they're doing, see how it works.
So like the merchant can have like this just real quick, like the merchant can have sort of like this laser that's like always on, kind of like when you scan your boarding pass at the airport and you just scan your like thing there. And so like they don't have to turn on their phone or anything. They just scan it and then they see, oh, you ordered this, here it is. Because they know that you paid because you have a valid voucher, basically.
I'm so glad you brought up Oshi. I did see that or a video of it actually being used at the Austin Bitcoin block party. I think that was last night.
It was last night.
And I got to talk to Michael from Oshi, and I think that's one of the programs that I'm most excited about coming away from the conference, just because it essentially allows stores or like a street vendor to actually just become an e-commerce store from like just a few steps. So like if they have like a payment processor already, they can essentially just bolster their options by actually receiving Lightning payments. So they can like take photos of the things that they would like to sell. They set the price on there, and then anyone that has the Oshi app will be able to see the map of all of the vendors that are around and be able to like select the goods that they'd like to purchase and pay for them at a distance. And then when they like actually come to show up, they've got the proof of payment, and then the vendor knows what it is that they purchased. So maybe they want to start making the pupusas when they get there, or maybe they want to start earlier ahead of time. Or you can just kind of just sprinkle sats to different vendors that you want to pay. I don't know, just as a tip.
Yeah,
it was really wild to see.
I think it's gonna be really cool, and I hope that he gets lots of funding because it's just him and another guy right now. But I think it's a really cool idea. Like I really like the reward structure too. Like you can set like, you get sats back or whatever. It's really cool.
Let's see. There was when kind of circling back to some of the user experience stuff. One of the other services that you could pay with Lightning was the like Bitcoin beer tap at the conference, and so that was set up by a whole bunch of Germans. Basically, it was called the German delegation because apparently got the ambassador from Germany to actually come on this trip with them, and they got carted around and were getting escorted by the police like to different locations around El Salvador. The poor Germans had to wake up at 6 a.m. every morning in order to participate. But this beer tap that they had, it was a complete joy to use, because basically you paid 1,337 sats to like pay for a beer, and it had a screen up there with a QR code, and as soon as you scan this QR code, you can hear this magnetic tap release, and it'll be able to pour you like a pretty perfect beer outside, and it would also like show a funny GIF at the same time. And let's see, in hanging out with some of the Germans that were able to make it to the conference, it turns out that they had split up the pieces of this beer tap into all of their different luggage pieces, because it was a whole bunch of parts. And so once they had all arrived, they were able to reassemble this thing that they had brought over from Berlin, in order to like have lightning beer at the conference. It was super fun, and pretty much that's where everyone was hanging out if they weren't at one of the talks.
Yeah, the tap was pretty sweet. We got a really cool video of Mr. Delorme using it with Zeus, and he got a little video that went viral, I think, after Bitcoin Magazine shared it. So that was cool seeing everyone's reaction. Some people making some witty comments about, automation and, lack of bar hand. But also got some really cool responses. We had Glenn Greenwald have like a really bullish comment on Bitcoin and like a quote tweet of that. So that was really awesome to see. But yeah, the beer tap looks awesome. I think they had it also at the Lightning conference in Berlin or something similar to it. Maybe they also had one that like did mixed drinks, but yeah, like really, really fun looking machines. And I was just like getting a lot of FOMO. Would love to buy a beer with Zeus on an automated tap. That's so cool.
It was a blast, and actually that's where it came out that there was a lot of sunlight out there, and so it made it difficult to scan the QR code during certain conditions. So it generated a lot of interest in NFC payments as a replacement for some of these QR codes.
Yep.
It would be great to get some of your thoughts on that.
So
I know Zeus is planning something.
Well, we've got a little more than planning for it. We have actually merged in our code and released it this week. Mind you, we're still in the alpha stages for this new release, but you can get it out in your hands. It is the ability to scan all our QR codes in the app. So that includes on-chain addresses, Lightning invoices, as well as node URIs if you want to share your channel connection information with a friend to open a channel to you. It works scanning wise both on iOS and Android. Android has a little issue with the linking outside of the app, but we're going to fix that soon. iOS users can't broadcast, but Android users can broadcast. Now, to my knowledge, we have Wallet of Satoshi that sort of has this functionality, but it's not compatible because it's solely done with Android Beam, whereas we are just using pure NFC. And we also have a couple other apps that do sort of a linking sort of thing. Like if you are outside of the app, I think Blixt Wallet does that, but they don't have any scanning in-app like Zeus does. So I'm not saying that we should go away with QR codes. Some people might not have NFC on their phone, but it's a nice supplementary tool that could be really useful in certain situations. I just personally view people getting more familiar with NFC, albeit it's with push models and not pull models like we're doing with Bitcoin. But with modern credit cards, if you've gotten a new credit card in the last year, there's Apple Pay, there's Google Pay. Normies are getting really familiar with NFC tech. And I figured it was about time for us to, commandeer some of that tech and start putting it into some of our Lightning wallets. So all the code for Zeus is open source, free and open source. I commend, all the people who helped build the libraries to make it possible. And I also encourage people to check that out. And maybe we could get it into something like a Galoy, or maybe we could just make it compatible with something like a Wallet of Satoshi. If we can get that working seamlessly, that would be amazing. And, we're not introducing any new standards or formats for these payments. They are just, presenting the strings the same way they're presented in the QR codes in our app. So we're not trying to reinvent the wheel as far as that goes. And furthermore, for people who have concerns about the workflow, it works exactly the same way as scanning a QR code, and not like you're paying in store with a NFC credit card or NFC app like a Google Pay or an Apple Pay. You get to pull in the address or the invoice, or you even pull in the node info onto your open channel screen, and you get to confirm all the information before you take any action. So in this house, we don't trust, we verify, and we can bring that ethos to this new method of transferring our data. So we'll see if it takes off, but after hearing a lot of people on the beach under the sun having issues scanning the QR codes, I figured it was about time to do it. So you guys grab Zeus 0.6.0 Alpha 4. You can mess around with it. There's those small caveats that we hope to address, at least on the Android side, soon. And we just encourage other people to throw their hats in the ring and try to make their implementations compatible with ours. We would love it. And, to double down on that, we're planning on adding support for external hardware devices to sign PSBTs, probably in release 0.7.0 in 2022. And we're going to make sure that we're compatible with NFC wallets, namely the new Cold Card that's coming out, and potentially the new lower-end hardware wallet that's supposed to be for the rest of the world that Square's developing. So really encourage people to take a look at that and take advantage of this new way of transferring data. I think it's really cool, and I would love for more people to get on board.
That's awesome.
And go ahead.
Oh, no. First, I was just going to say that's awesome. Second, I don't want to interrupt, but I wanted to provide context on the tweet I shared because we were talking about the beer tap. This guy shared the video of Steven buying the beer, and I missed the boat completely. I think got me all triggered, and so I sent him a bunch of tweets about sort of the bigger picture, what he didn't see there. So I'll drop that down, and then I've got to drop. So thank y'all for hosting, and good to connect with y'all.
Yeah, absolutely, Andrew. I hope to talk to you soon, and take
Cheers.
care.
Later.
Yeah, massive congrats on getting that NFC payment released and in an open source app. So I'm excited about this really moving the needle forward as far as the payment technologies that we have access to. And now I'm curious, what does an NFC type payment look like on the merchant side? So if you're wanting to receive a Lightning payment, what types of things do they need to do in order to be able to receive a payment via an NFC type, or how do they pass that invoice?
So I saw one proof of concept. I'm not sure what it was exactly, for like a jukebox or something on the wall. So people are definitely exploring that, but basically you'll need some sort of NFC tag broadcaster. So right now we're just processing straight up Lightning invoices, on-chain addresses, and node URIs, but perhaps in the future or the near future we can extend that out, add support for LNURL and Lightning address sort of stuff. But I mean, really, if a merchant wants to do it today, if they have an Android phone, they could leverage it with Zeus, like right out the box. But I guess we need these point of sale systems to support it in one form or another. Pretty much, they just need to broadcast your address or your Lightning invoice straight up as a string. And yeah, we've seen other wallets do it with the Android Beam protocol, but we want to be a little more agnostic and not just get locked into a single platform. So we went a little bit of a more roundabout way, but it's going to lead to more compatibilities. And I think that's really important as we're talking about an open point payment system. We got to make sure that the formats in which we broadcast our data, whether it be the QR codes, the address strings, or even the NFC formats, I think the more open and universal, the better. So I don't think there's really a single great way for people to do this, but you know, I would love for something like a Square point of sale system to eventually support Bitcoin addresses and Lightning invoices. But yeah, there's definitely a lot of room for more experimentation. I know Chaz, who wasn't able to join us today, he was messing around with some NFC tag stuff. He was going to help experiment with that and do some testing in Zeus. And yeah, I think it's just such a really cool use case and issue to address. You know, would love to see more and more people try to, you know, add to the ecosystem and make it another tool in our arsenal.
Absolutely. Have you gotten a chance to talk to Roy from Breez? I know he's got this really nice point of sale function that he's added into the Breez wallet. So that's something I'm keeping an eye on as far as just merchant adoption, because like, hey, this is a free app that already has a point of sale stuff. And if your phone is equipped with NFC, then it seems like a logical place to actually start with, you know, playing with this NFC stuff between wallets.
That sounds like a great idea. So I met Roy down in Miami during the Bitcoin Mag conference, but haven't chatted to him too much since. Maybe a couple messages. So yeah, I'll probably touch base and see he's interested in talking about that. That would be awesome. Yeah, if we can just make it easier for merchants on the other side, that's a big part of the puzzle too. So let's make it happen.
Awesome. And on the consumer side of this, I was hearing some comments that if you want an NFC enabled phone, it's going to be like at the higher price point of phones. Like it has to be like a $400 plus phone in order for it to even have NFC. And I was curious if there's like any retrofits that might be available to actually like give your phone NFC capabilities.
That is an excellent question. I do not know. I would hope that there is some sort of ability, maybe with a Bluetooth pair or even just plug in with your micro USB, but I'm not sure. I think there might be room in that picture for, you know, that low cost NFC wallet to potentially be used in the picture there at some point. But yeah, that might be a challenge for them too. That'd be interesting to maybe talk to the Square folks and get their perspective on that too. But yeah, certainly something that is not available in cheaper phones, even though it's sort of ubiquitous and more of the consumer facing phones that we see on a day-to-day basis up here in the States and in North America at least. But yeah, definitely a point of concern, and definitely paramount reason we don't want to just abandon QR codes, but that's why I really see them as something that could work hand in hand with each other, depending on, you know, preference, consumers' devices, merchants' devices. I think promoting choice is pretty paramount in the space.
That's awesome. Any folks with questions or other things that are on your mind in Lightning that you're curious about? We've been talking QR codes, NFC, El Salvador, El Zonte. Yeah, anything that's on your folks' minds.
Otherwise, just a bunch of other stuff we could get into. Lightning Labs folks have been pretty busy. They've got a couple of new releases out this week. We talk about that.
Are you talking Webconnect?
Yeah, we could we can start with Webconnect. Pretty awesome tool that I've been messing around with a bit the last couple of weeks. Have you gotten a chance to check it out, Jestopher, or anyone else up here?
I haven't played with it. We've been so heads down working on Amboss stuff, but I know this Webconnect is going to be so relevant for us.
Yeah.
For everyone else, it's that maybe hasn't come across it yet. It allows you to actually have a secure connection to your node from a website. So you could actually just be visiting a website and be able to view at least your balances on your actual node. And that would be end-to-end encrypted. So only you would be able to see those balances. So that's where it's going to start. But then kind of the next steps is a lot more active management, or a lot more permissions might be added to this Webconnect feature. So you could actually manage your entire node through a standard website.
Or maybe have someone else or another service manage your node with really granular permissions. Let's say
that's true.
Let's say, you know, the new node management service. Let's say I'm a merchant, right, in San Salvador, and I have a pupusa business, and you know, I want to participate on Lightning and maintain control of all my funds. I want to be non-custodial, but I really don't want to deal with the hassle of like managing my channels, doing rebalances, closing the channels that aren't working. What if I could maintain control of all my funds and say, okay, I will let's say, Jestopher to manage my node for me, and give him really granular permissions. Let's say he could move up to 10 million Satoshis in a month. He can do 10 rebalancing operations. He could open up to 5 new channels. He could close up to 7 channels. That's where I think things are going to go in the next year. It's going to be pretty interesting. There's a lot of work to be done, but the proof of concept really that got released is like a bare bones thing. Like you could go on there, manage some channels. You could go and use Loop and Pool. You can get sidecar channel tickets. But the way I see things going, it's going to facilitate the creation of a whole lot more services and businesses that are going to have trust models in which the customers have so much more control and have less worries and more assurances. So pretty exciting. A lot of work to be done there. The product is really cool as it is because it just makes it so easy to use something like Lightning Pool. But I think the road that's going to be paved, that this enables really is the more exciting thing. So excited to see how that develops.
Yeah, go for it, Nate.
I was going to say, I've been thinking about automation a lot, and over, the time I've been in Lightning, and I think that the first tree to fall in that forest will be basic merchant services. I don't think it's very complex anymore to have a fairly decent automated channel management for merchants, meaning like you're not actively trying to like route optimally, you're just trying to receive optimally. And at Voltage, we're going to make that, it's going to be really easy to interact with Pool and get liquidity. We already have our Flow API. We're going to have a Flow dashboard out very, 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 very soon that anybody can use running LND. You don't have to run a voltage node for that. And we're hoping, or at least I'm hoping, this isn't voltage talking, this is me talking, but I could kind of see like a merchant solution that's like in the cloud and behind the scenes, they don't even notice. A sidecar ticket is being registered, they're getting inbound liquidity, and then they can define, at what percent maybe does a channel have to be on the local side before it's like redeemed on chain or whatever, and then a new sidecar channel is registered. That's not optimal, but it's very easy to do automated, right? So I'm thinking about things like that. What do you guys think?
I think that's reasonable for like that to be the one of the first places that does get automated. Now, like there will still be a question of like if you're a merchant and you only have inbound liquidity on one channel, how do you make the decision to like attempt to rebalance to know if this one node that you can still receive from, like, are they actually a good node?
Right. Well, at this point, at least with Pool, we have to trust Lightning Labs for that. But that's the rub, right?
Yeah, I mean that could be like make or whether this merchant is going to continue to use Lightning or they're just going to say like, hey, this is way too much trouble. Because I was noticing, like, if you have payment failures in person, it's super annoying. I mean, we were just trying to pay for some pupusas, and I think there were 4 of us, like, cycling through all of our wallets to see if we could just get one that would work. And we would start with the most difficult and then try and go more and more custodial.
I mean, I think but, like, so for receiving, like, if I was opening up a bakery or something, like, I know this is me talking because I've been in Lightning for a while, but the way I teach it is you don't just want one inbound channel. Like, you want at least 5. You want to up that up. And as far as paying invoices on the go, my go-to has been Phoenix for a long time. Ever since I stopped trying to because my routing node has a ton of sats on it, and it just got kind of weird remoting into it. I just got freaked out. So I use Phoenix for that now. But receiving, I talk to a lot of people that are like, hey, people's payments are failing to me. It's like, okay, well, how many channels do you have? I have 3 channels. Okay, you know what I mean? It's like it sucks, but you need more than that. At least at this point of the Lightning Network, you need more than that.
Oh, totally. I'm just like thinking about like what we're competing against as far as like payment providers. You've got like American Express, Visa, and MasterCard, and like they're all fighting against like doing the last 9 as far as payment reliability, where they're like 99.99% this payment will go through. And here we are in Lightning, where like maybe it's like 50%, and that might be generous. That it like actually works.
I think that I hope that more people use these liquidity, like not the centralized liquidity providers, but these like generic routing node auction marketplaces like Pool and ads and stuff. I think the more that people start using them, the more that we can find out what the kinks and the problems are to fix. But it's like we need to get it out there and get people using it in order to fix it. It's that sort of paradox,
Yeah, that's really true. And actually, some of the centralized services, like kind of watching Lightning Loop recently, on the routing front, that market has just been destroyed by one particular routing node that has a huge amount of
they
Bitcoin
figured it out
and is basically they've underpriced everyone else on the entire network by a significant margin. And I'm hoping that they can raise their prices a little bit so the rest of the network can get some yield. But yeah, because the loop market is pretty much destroyed, I'll be looking more towards pool.
Yeah.
We need those more decentralized.
Who is this? You got a name and shame, Jestopher. You can't leave us hanging like this.
You can check it out on Amboss if you go to the loop.
So it's just someone with a lot of Bitcoin with like 2,000 ppm. I don't know how much ppm he's doing, but
no, he's doing like 400.
What? Why? That's so bad.
That's what I was wondering.
Is it Langley? It's
like,
gotta be Langley.
Or below.
Or someone really mad at the reserve. Who is it? No, I'll give Amboss its page hit, so I'm going on right now. I'll find it.
Imagine doing that just to troll everybody. Like, you don't even care. You're just like, screw it, I'm gonna crash the market. Like, people do that on like massively multiplayer games a lot. Like, just screw around with economies and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. I'll spoil it for you. The node name is Seasick Diver. And
I've never heard of it.
I think altogether has about 11 Bitcoin pointed at the loop node at like 400 ppm. So that is like 0.04% fee. And like normally I can get about a 0.2% fee paying to loop, but not now. Not now and not for a while.
Damn, I see it. This is pretty good.
So on some Amboss news, we did update the fee distribution. So now you can see a little bit more clearly which nodes are providing liquidity at which fee rate, and then the height of the bars is actually the capacity that is being provided in that fee rate bucket. So should be a lot more intuitive to spot like, okay, where is the market on this? Because you can see a clear bell curve for the nodes providing liquidity to loop, and far left of the bell curve is Seasick Diver. That is completely underpricing that whole bell curve.
Oh, I see. Damn, especially on the channel capacity map, he's got 11 Bitcoin straight up to the loop server. Wow.
I've found Bitfinex and Bitrefill to still be kind of okay for high fee rate routing, but nothing like Loop though. Loop has always been the gold. No, or the, you know what I mean.
Yeah, just as far as I can tell, it's like the most popular destination for payments, where it's pretty much price insensitive. Like these merchant services or whoever is using the loop out function, like they're going to use it if they need that inbound liquidity. If they want that payment reliability.
Yeah, I don't know. I've still believe that the real, at least, I mean, it's so hard to predict, but I think the yield for selling liquidity is going to be better than routing for most people. You know, when the average, you know, when a Bitcoin is 200 grand and a 500,000 sat channel is a lot, you know what I mean?
Oh, you think that the scarcity of Bitcoin is like actually going to be driving some of the channel sales revenue for nodes?
Well, I mean, as it is right now, the more sets you have, I mean, the more you need to sell to get a certain fiat sort of representation of it. but like as the value goes up, that becomes less, which means more people could do it and be happy about it. That's kind of what I'm thinking.
Yeah, with this, since now this one central market is like kind of destroyed. It's like I think some of the routing nodes will be spreading out and looking at some of these other services that maybe they weren't considering before, and they're going to be going for these like smaller and smaller destinations. So this might actually be a time where we might see a lot more like connectedness to some of the further reaches of the Lightning Network, where it's not going to be so focused in the middle, and this will be a decentralizing force, at least in my view.
I think that is going to be one of the side effects of having liquidity sales, like pulling ads, because you're making up channels, not necessarily to a node with 300 channels. A node with 40 channels can be still a great routing node for people.
That's true. And you mentioned liquidity ads, and we've got the liquidity ad queen herself in the room. And I did see Ellen Router app added some liquidity ads features. That's pretty exciting.
Jesse, did you ever start a C Lightning node?
I have not.
I admit I have not either.
Shame on you.
We've been talking about it for a while, but I just moved and I feel like I can start buying more. I don't know. I feel like I could start tinkering more in my little tinker warehouse.
Well, you could run it on Raspberry Blitz now.
Yeah.
And maybe Start9 has an option for C Lightning now. I don't remember. I haven't spun mine up in a bit. But yeah, I got a couple of instances I've been messing around with. Was messing around with some liquidity ads on testnet at least. But yeah, I'm excited to see what's the C Lightning folks do in the next year with that. What happens with their green light service that they've been talking about. Might have some crossover with sort of what's happening with Lightning Connect, Terminal Connect from Lightning Labs. And yeah, just excited to see those ideas built out and for more people to be using liquidity ads, because Pool is really cool in that we've got the maker taker model. Those order books are there despite being sort of blinded. Yeah, it would be nice for people to just be using this protocol without a middleman in the mix too, and for that to get more popular and for it to become a more viable way of getting some inbound. So excited for that. And definitely really cool that you could push an amount so that you could have balance channels too. That's a game changer as well.
Yeah, with Flow, you can choose an outbound amount. So you just pay the amount that you want on your side of the channel. When it matches, you'll get that back on your side, which is pretty cool. Like if I was starting a new node right now, that's probably what I would do.
Nice, yeah, it's pretty critical to be able to have capacity in both directions. So yeah, that's definitely makes a lot of sense, especially for some starter channels, especially if you're trying to send payments both ways, send and receive.
So what was the experience like doing the testnet liquidity ads?
It was pretty smooth. The APIs are pretty straightforward, and he was able to get some inbound from one of the testnet nodes out there. But yeah, I think it really needs for that stuff to just start shining is a nice UI, really clean interfaces to see the offers that are available for you to execute on them. And yeah, I'm just really hoping that next year we'll be able to see some stuff like that, and I think it's on the way. So that'll be really cool, and I think it's going to help bring in more users and therefore more liquidity. So let's get that built.
Very nice. Yeah. Raspberry came out with the C Lightning function, so you could just run that wallet in parallel with your LND. And as soon as that happened, I totally killed my node. So currently resyncing the blocks. It's going very slowly over Tor, but hopefully
Wait, you killed new set base also?
Let's see. I do have the one on Voltage, which I was moving stuff over to, but then the old one really took it.
Okay, because I noticed that our channel isn't working.
Yeah,
okay.
it's a problem.
The perils of the nomadic life.
Yeah, man, I was just not expecting like a several day power outage to happen while I was away for a month, but here we are. But I was in Turkey like right before Turkey was in the news a ton for their insane hyperinflation that's happening there.
Insane.
I
There's
think
a
it's
little bit of unrest there. Unrest there. I'm mixing up uprising and unrest. You could throw that in the dictionary now. But yeah, it's crazy. It lost like 10% of its value in a day. The Turkish lira.
Yeah, my Airbnb hosts, they were telling me that had happened once before, and everyone just kind of like watched it in stunned silence. And they were kind of like laughing about it because while I was there, I think beers were about 20 lira, which I was just dividing that by 10, so it was like a $2 beer. But they were telling me like for them, like that was like a $20 beer. So like that's like them really going out, and that was on the cheap side as well. So really hoping that Bitcoin takes off. And I did go to a couple of Bitcoin meetups while I was there, and they were not very well attended. But the folks that were there were all strategizing on how to get more people aware of Bitcoin and how this can really help them avoid the perils of this hyperinflation.
Yeah, crazy. It's just terrible to think people saving in their local currencies just see, that their savings deteriorate that much in a single day. That's a scary thought, and it just makes me more and more grateful for Bitcoin. To know that people all around the world have an escape, they have a safe haven in this tech. Like I said at the beginning of this space, there's probably only 10% of the world really knows about it or how to use it really. We need to do some more work to get it in the hands of everyone else, but at least it's an option for people who seek it out.
Yeah. One piece of that is that even there, it didn't really occur to people that it was the currency that was dying. Because like when they go to like look at their investment portfolio, like basically everything is screaming higher. Like they just like they need to invest because like all of it is going up when the denominator is Turkish lira. Like even if you have dollars in your portfolio, like it looks like you're fucking killing it as far as an investment goes. Just by holding dollars in your like investment portfolio. And it like I'm watching some of that happen in the US where it's like stocks only go up. But we know like Bitcoiners can see clearly like it's actually the number of dollars being printed that is making the number of in the stock markets go higher.
Yeah, it's like on paper, I'm crushing it, but then compared to, my cost of living, the price of my mortgage or my rent, price to keep my family fed, like, not doing so hot. And that's really where the real crime, the shame in this inflation is. It just distorts all your price signals from how goods are priced on shelves to economic calculation that individuals have to make on a day-to-day basis. It's like if you had a measuring stick, and that 3-foot stick is suddenly 2.5 feet instead. Everything may look like it's getting better in terms of the stick, but that's not the reality at all. So really just highlights the need for a better measuring stick.
Totally. I was listening to the Bitcoin Standard audiobook last night, and it was talking about how like the Romans would actually make the staples really cheap, so that people could have basic goods, and that made people really a big fan of the government or whatever that you would call the Roman leadership. And I did notice the same thing in Turkey, where you can get like a loaf of bread for like 2 lira. So it was like just ridiculously cheap. So that's like a loaf of bread for 20 cents. And so there were definitely some parallels that were happening, and I'm curious when that will show up in the US, where we're having these basic goods have like fixed government prices to kind of like hide what's happening as far as inflation goes.
Well, the inflation is happening. I mean, the Dollar General or Dollar Trees now bumped their price up to $1.25 for everything. So that's not great. If the real inflation rate's 25%, that would really suck. But yeah, I mean, eventually all of these regimes, when things get bad, they do want to do price fixing. And like all their actions, it just exacerbates things. It makes things worse. Just like the way that the Turkish central bank tried to put in measures to prevent the free fall of the lira, it just made things worse. Similar controls this side of the pond will also make things worse. So hopefully it doesn't get to that. But I think everyone here can be grateful that they're measuring things in stats. I hope you guys all are.
As far as like future speculation goes, what are your thoughts on node growth? Are we going to see more Lightning nodes in the future, or do you think we're going to kind of pause here, or maybe even people are going to say like, forget this Lightning routing stuff, I'm just going to run my Raspberry Pi for something else?
Great question. I think it's hard to determine exactly what the rate of growth is going to look like over time. Obviously, since El Salvador launched, the new national currency alongside the dollar, Bitcoin, we've seen a crazy amount of growth. I'd imagine it to really taper off a bit as we go into the new year. But I think we're still going to have a pretty big 2022. I think the things I think about and worry about more is, are we going to get to a point where routing and the network itself just becomes like too crazy big, and we got to think about how we do routing, how to make it more efficient. Do we have dedicated nodes to routing computation? Because right now it's just like all source side routing. Like whoever's making the payment has to like run all the numbers. And as the network gets bigger and you have to make more and more hops to complete a payment, it becomes a little bit untenable. So really interested about that and how that's going to shake out. there's been some interesting proposals, but it's really going
So you
come
think,
to push is going to have to come to shove for some of that stuff to be implemented.
so you think like when the network grows, routing is going to be so complicated that you're going to have to like delegate to some other source to actually find a feasible route?
I think that might be a possibility. I definitely think that that's going to be something that gets experimented with a lot. Otherwise, like, what is the alternative? Just more centralization, more hubs being used as common points of where transactions get routed through, and I think that's a bit of an inevitability as well.
That's interesting. I mean, right now, what is it? The maximum amount of hops in a given payment is like 12 for the Lightning Network, but I think you can get just about anywhere in like 7 hops, and we're just shy of 20,000 nodes here.
Now,
So
extrapolate that to, I don't know, how many nodes can we possibly get to? Like, how big will L2 go? I mean, we already see L3 in a lot of forums in these custodial platforms like Galois and Blue Wallets, but how many Lightning nodes will actually get run at the peak of this? And that's a great question. It's hard to say.
I mean, I was definitely curious about it because like that's going to be part of Amboss's business model is like how many nodes are there going to be on the network, and I was thinking about it like, well, I know there's over 100,000 Bitcoin nodes, and like why wouldn't they want to add Lightning functions on top? Because like in my mind, it's only a value add. Like you get way faster transactions. There's an opportunity to have yields. There's a ton of like really cool functions that you can add on top of it. You can basically have a store. Like it.
Yeah, I mean,
Just seems
100,000 is probably the floor. I mean, let's think about what you can do without a Bitcoin node. Like now that you have like Neutrino, right? And you can just get these light filters onto your Android or iPhone. Like the number of Lightning nodes should easily exceed that. And then you're also seeing like products like I think Nodl says they're going to release like a really cheap Lightning only node where your node is just, it's not worrying about the whole blockchain. It's not even worrying about like a prune version of the blockchain. It's probably just going to fetch the filters that it needs over Neutrino to like a Nodl Neutrino node, or maybe you could probably plug your own in. But yeah, I mean, since the cost is coming down so much, we should like totally exceed that. So like, what does the network look like at 5 times the size? Can you still get around to pretty much anywhere within 7 hops? Or are we like pushing up towards like 10 or 11? Are the onion messages getting too big? Like there's a lot of different questions that you got to ask at that point.
Oh man, I'm so glad you brought up the Nodl. Yeah, they just released Nodl Lite, but I cannot help but call it the Nodlito. Because it's just there's this cute little device. It's got like USB input and an Ethernet input and a little antenna. And the thing has 1 terabyte SSD inside.
Oh, so it does have storage still, but
yeah,
not expected to download the whole chain. I like the antenna for that's Wi-Fi presumably, so that's a nice add to the devices. But the Nodls, they're great devices. I think they probably retail for like what $400 to $700 depending on which model you get, and they're targeting $200 for this one. So that would be pretty sweet. I would love to see.
I mean,
exactly
that's amazing.
Yeah, that's amazing, and I'm hoping to see that sort of device be used down in El Salvador by the merchants more so than depending on. Don't get me wrong. Like I really appreciate what a lot of the custodial services like Blue Wallet and especially like Bitcoin Beach have done. And, there's nothing to scoff at, especially with all those stacks being completely free and open source. But of course, you would always want to see, all our participants on the network take things into their own hands. So, yeah, that would be really awesome to see happen. Whether it'll happen super quickly, that transition, I'm not really sure. Probably not unless someone ends up getting burnt. But I like that we're at least seeing offerings in the marketplace for those sort of people, those sort of merchants come up. So definitely a really cool sign. And I wish we had Keto Miner, who is one of the co-founders of Nodl. He was in the space listening in. I just wish he could have heard your Nodlito name recommendation. It is very cute, but we'll have to run it by him when we catch him next.
Oh yeah, I've got a meeting with him next week, so very much looking forward to really pushing that. And we really should have asked him about it.
So what you're telling me is Amboss is coming to Nodl and all these other node platforms? Yeah, one-click install. Yeah.
That that would be amazing. No promises yet, but we'll talk things over. Of course, they have a node, so I think there's still a discussion to be had on whether this is going to be more of like hosted software. Is this going to be like managed for you, or is this going to be like a self-managed type thing?
Very interesting.
But your comment about the cost of nodes going down is also making me really bullish on the number of nodes on the network.
Yeah, of course.
Because like
should definitely get voltage, the function of it. Like that's the whole reason like why we keep the block size fixed at like a fairly small size. It's like we need to make the network decentralized and have as many participants maintaining the chain. And I think Lightning is also going to flourish with more nodes on it, despite there potentially being some, increased computation costs for really big routes as we go on with time. But at least we got some great minds thinking about that in advance. And I think we're going to see some interesting solutions come up.
Yeah, just the idea that we have a purpose-built device for $200 or less for Lightning Network merchants. Like, yeah, that's straight rocket fuel in my book, because that's going to be driving yields. That's going to be driving interest in the Lightning Network. Yeah, more nodes, more better. And shout out to Voltage, of course, for just making it really easy to get some cloud hosted nodes out there.
Nodalito. Yeah, definitely bullish. And Nodl's definitely underrated product in the space. Really, really sweet solution. And I've got a couple of their devices. I really like them a bunch.
A couple. All right. I really wanted that red one.
To be fair, to bring it ultra cypherpunk, Keto let me build my own makeshift bootleg Nodl 1. So I still got that running. I'm not sure how much longer I'm going to keep that really in the rotation, but I also have one of the red guys, the toxic Samurai ones, which is a really nice device because it's got the dual SSDs and their clones. So if I have a failure on one, I should be able to recover pretty quickly. But yeah,
that's what I
like
need.
their business. It's awesome.
Okay. Other questions? I would be going over hour and a half now. So
yeah, we're at about an hour 40 or hour and a half if you count the startup time. So yeah, if anyone wants to come up stage, shoot the shit, ask any questions. Looks like Nate is having some great connectivity issues. I bet his LND node is just eating up his whole network.
Must be routing all the flow payments.
Yeah, that's what it must be. Oh, we got a request. Let's see. Oh, Chaz. What is up, Chaz?
On the Nodal thing. Because I've been listening, you guys. Sorry that I'm weird. So I have one of the red Nodals too. I really liked it. And then like this is kind of a story about not having a UPS. So I had it for a while. It was working pretty well. The power went out a couple times here. Now the Nodal does not work so well. I gave Keto Miner a bunch of shit for like months and months, and eventually we had a troubleshooting session where we found out that the boot drive, the EMMC, if I'm remembering correctly, is broken, is fucked, whatever you want to call it. And so my Nodal is kind of sad and broken right now. It's kind of interesting though, like I had a my node running at the same time, and that one is absolutely fine. I think the slightly more complicated setup on the Nodal, it being like in a RAID and all this other stuff, made it a little bit more complex to take care of, I guess. You know, like I think a lot of people just don't think about getting a UPS, a power backup for people who don't know what a UPS is. You know, just like an automatic thing that they think about. So I think most people in this room probably know to have a power backup for your node, but anyone that might be listening to this in the future, you know, if you're setting up your node and you're like, I don't need a battery backup, you know, you're setting yourself up for potential failure because at some point, you know, power's gonna reset, you know, in your house, in your apartment, you know, whether a storm, whether the neighbor knocked a tree down, whatever the case might be, you know, something stupid's going to happen. You're not going to be prepared. And now your node's fucked and you have to go deal with recovery. And depending on how you have that set up, you know, you might be completely SOL because like the drive with the backup might be corrupted and, you know, you might have to do special, you know, go find a data recovery specialist to try to reconstruct it, et cetera, et cetera. So, you know, I spent like $200. I got 2 different UPSs, one for a bunch of my node things, and then also one from my main computer and like router and a bunch of other stuff just to kind of cover all my bases. But yeah, I think it's a very important note to make, and I apparently waited the entire show to say that.
Yeah, that's definitely great advice, and you know, it's just never fun dealing with corruption on a hot wallet like a Lightning wallet. So definitely recommend that. And excellent point on talking about putting like your router, your modem on there, so you could keep that internet access going even when the power's down. As long as that internet line is still up, you'll still be able to access it. So yeah, thanks.
That's a great point. Yeah, because the power has gone out here before, and my node was on the UPS. But then I was thinking, well, how am I going to connect to this node in order to shut it down gracefully? And I realized like, oh wait, I can't because the modem and the router is in a different room. And it doesn't have a UPS. So there's really no way for me to connect to this thing.
Absolutely, yeah. You got to have that in the mix to be able to shell into it to get that network access. At least you're good. You're not going to have that fatal crash on your node, but you should really go through the lengths to just put everything on that setup. Yeah, definitely look into getting a UPS. So we got another speaker on stage who wants to ask a question. Ragaraman, if I pronounced that right, but I probably didn't. Welcome to the stage.
Thanks, man. You did a pretty good job. I just go by Ragu.
Ragu, I like that. Yeah, so people mess up my last name a lot, so I try to do my best when I'm dealing with tricky names. So yeah, welcome. Do you have a question for us?
Well, yes, and I wanted to like introduce myself. I just think that this is, I don't know the point of this chat, but I'm a musician and I make music. Follow me, guys.
Nice. Okay. And in this Lightning chat, we're talking about the payments over the Lightning Network.
Oh God.
See, there's a couple of things that like could impact musicians. I actually just saw one thing come out today, where folks can basically pay for this music to play, and it like pays it for the next person to listen to it.
Oh, that's awesome. That's a genuine idea.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. It was kind of like a pay it forward model. So if you want to like keep this music on the jukebox or whatever, like I was listening to some Debussy that someone else had paid for, and then I just like topped it up. So there could be another 10 listens in the future.
So I don't know how Lightning affects musicians, but guys, I have an album coming out January 3rd.
Cool. What's it called? All right, you got to work on your pitch a little bit more, but maybe we'll check it out.
Never mind, I don't have a call.
All right. Well, that was fun. Anyone else have any other questions before we wrap it up today?
So
Oh, sorry, Chaz.
Sorry.
Go ahead. No, it's all good.
Like I was just laughing at that last one, dude. Like I was in a kind of bad mood, but like just shilling music on here was a pretty big win, I think. Anyway, so kind of bring things around to like a general Lightning Network topic here. So like, is there anything you guys are particularly excited about right now? Like I've been kind of struggling. I've been hitting the same like topics over and over, and I feel like inside my own head, kind of biased head, they're all kind of stale. So I would love to hear from you guys. You know, what's jazzing you up? You know, Jestopher, obvious. You know, you came from El Salvador, probably still running a little high off that experience. But like, is there anything outside of the kind of obvious stuff that you guys are super excited about?
You know what, like, you know, personally, I don't need a ton of new features to get excited about Lightning, because like for me, the really exciting piece is kind of the network growth, because like, hey, we've got a whole bunch of like cool things that we can do and proof of concepts, but now we're going to be kind of entering the next phase where it's going to be it's prime time. Like we've got like nearly $200 million worth of Bitcoin on the Lightning Network now. Like this has a ton of potential. So sometimes I look at it like this is people's Christmas money that they've set aside, and they've turned it into its most liquid form. So it is ready to be spent like at any time. And now, like I'm kind of like comparing that to like the big payment networks, and thinking like we could actually use this Bitcoin maybe several times, and there's a whole bunch of like merchant opportunities. So I'm watching kind of yields go down, and I see a lot of interest. So I'm hoping that the next phase is the merchants adding to to the network, because payments are really, really cheap compared to just about anything else. If merchants are okay with receiving Bitcoin, like, this is a great time to be a merchant. So like that's basically like my excitement. It's on the network growth, and I'm not so deep into the protocol, but I know there's a lot of cool things that can happen as this network grows, whether it's like reputation type stuff or just actually meaningfully competing with payment providers.
Yeah, for me, it's like a mix of things. It's like new businesses and services and platforms spinning up. That's going to be a big part of the puzzle, and I'm excited for just like all the new possibilities. Like, we weren't able to make payments this small feasibly before in the past, and I'm just really curious to see what kind of cool things could be built once people have all the tools to like spin these things up easily. So I think that's going to be a pretty big part of next year. But then just a bunch of other stuff that we know about that's just going to take time to like be fortified and get out there, like Bolt 12 namely. It's going to be really exciting. And yeah, just watching the El Salvador experiment has been really cool so far. Sort of crazy we didn't even get into it, Bitcoin City. Like, that's going to be nuts if that ever comes to fruition. So pretty excited about like efforts like that. Really excited by the prospect of like the next shoe to fall. Like, who's going to be the next country that gets on board with the great Bitcoin experiment? And yeah, just all the projects I know and love, from little noddles to Ambosses, to stuff on the protocol. Just seeing that stuff continue to be built, and yeah, just hoping to see who's the next person to take note of what we're building on Lightning, and who becomes bullish because of the latest interaction they see on Twitter. Like, it was really cool, I think, to see Glenn Greenwald get really bullish on Steven buying the beer in El Salvador. So that was pretty dope. So yeah, it's really just little things, and it's something that's going to take like quite a long time. It's already been a few years. It's going to take a bunch more, but it's really encouraging to see the growth and all the real awesome things being built on top of Lightning. So that's it for me.
Yeah, it's hard to like. I mean, I've been so deep into Lightning that maybe I haven't noticed like all of the changes, and it seems kind of low. But I mean, looking back, I joined my first like Lightning group in like mid 2019, so that was like 2.5 years ago. And like it has completely changed since then. Like I was still using 1ML, and I found like one of my old comments. I was like, man, 1ML is cool. This has a lot of potential. And
you just leapfrog.
Like, just looking back, like, I wish they would do something else. And now I'm like, both feet in. Like,
yeah, that's pretty awesome. Yeah, it's been quite a while. I think Zeus is going to be out 3 years in February. Probably around 3 years ago this time, I was getting into the weeds of it and really trying to get it together, put it on my phone, and taking it on the bus as I was going to the city to go into work, and connecting to my node back home. And yeah, I mean, we've come a real long way, but still a lot of work to do. I mean, I know we all have the normies in our life that we would love to get on LN, and for the most part, that hasn't happened, at least for me. And I know it's possible now after seeing like all of these interactions I'm seeing in El Salvador, and I'm really just looking forward to all the people in my life really coming to terms with the technology and getting familiar with it, and joining the Bitcoin party with us. So Just hoping that people don't have to come to it because of what's going on with local currencies. But knowing that even if that's what it does come to, like I'll be around to help support and set up my friends and family and people in my community. So let's see how it happens.
So, I mean, obviously there's a pretty big contrast between, who you're likely to be friends with here in the United States and, the people in El Salvador, obviously very different financial setups there.
Oh, yeah.
So it seems like most of my friends, basically have no real need for the Lightning Network. We're going to kind of keep Bitcoin, the asset, to the side for the moment. I think that's a separate conversation a little bit. Because, on my podcast, my initial thought process was pitching my one friend and kind of turning that into a show. And kind of like, what would he want to hear in order to kind of feel more confident and kind of want to move into this stuff? And most of the same stuff back then is what I think I would point any newbie to now. So it's going to be stuff like Fold, Bitrefill and Strike in combination because they have that 5% back thing. And maybe this new bank thing that I saw you talking very briefly with this morning, Evan. You'll have to tell me about that because I have no idea what the fuck is going on with that. But anyway.
Oh yeah, Noah.
Well, listen, I haven't gotten my hands on the product yet. I know these guys are ambitious. So, can't really co-sign anything right now, but we were just talking about, the future of banking and Bitcoin, which at a very high level is sort of, contradictory, as that Bitcoin lets you be your own bank. But, as we're going in this transition period, I don't think hyper Bitcoinization just happens like 0 to 1. Like, we're going to go through a long period of transition. There's like a huge need for so many banking products, like Bitcoiners who need to get their Bitcoin out and spend it in the real world in terms of fiat on traditional payment rails. Bitcoiners trying to collateralize their Bitcoin for loans to pay back expenses, or perhaps get money to put down on a house if they're going into the next stage of their life. So yeah, a lot of things there, but I just think it's going to be a really interesting dichotomy between new services, new banks, new Bitcoin first banks starting up, and then traditional financial institutions getting in on the mix. And I think things like NYDIG going and spending something like $300 million on bottle pay and hoping to provide those rails to banks is like a really bullish indicator of that happening. I think Goldman Sachs talking about wanting to offer Bitcoin collateralized loans this week is a real bullish sign of that happening. Who knows? We might have people who work at banks listening in on this call right now, working on sort of similar projects. So I think that we are more likely to have, at least in the United States, we're going to have these institutions more embrace Bitcoin and see the writing on the wall and want to get a cut of the action, rather than us have like a 6102 event happen. So it's going to be challenging. There's a good chance that there's going to be a lot of regulatory capture as these institutions want to make it harder for the little guys to get in. But at the same time, the little guys are going to come in with a fresh perspective. They're going to be built by Bitcoiners. They're going to know what the services want to be. And then at that point, it's like, okay, are the old legacy heads going to have to go and buy these new businesses out to stay relevant? Or are the little guys going to just tell them to fuck off and keep doing their own thing? It's going to be really, really interesting to see. So, yeah, let's see how that pans out.
So would you say then, because I think we kind of got off on Noah there a little bit, but would you say that like Fold, Bitrefill, and the general like Bitcoin back or Bitcoin rewards or what have you. Basically, different ways to get yield, quote unquote. It may not be yield if you're like spending money in order to get it back or whatever, but regardless, the point is what would normies care about? And I think Fold, just as like the easy example, has been my best pitch, because I've like this one friend that I'm talking about basically was, with me in 2013 when I first started with Bitcoin, and he ended up selling at the wrong time and kind of feeling kind of burned from it. So he kind of, didn't really get into it after that. But I've been trying to kind of get him back in a kind of more kind of relaxed basis, I guess, if that makes sense, where you're not trying to put in $5,000 and try to like, come on, let's see, 32x, come on. I try to get that out of him and be like, dude, if my crazy idea about this shit going up is true, you can, just DCA in and be fine. Like in 2015, I was telling him this, not really knowing if I thought it was going to go up in the bear run. But anyway, long story short, do you guys think like Fold and Bitrefill and the other similar ways to kind of just save money, essentially, is still the best way to kind of get your feet wet with Lightning? Because I have a hard time really thinking of anything else that's really sticky. Maybe
I think that they're helpful. They're good tools. I like those products. I think that you can onboard some people with those services, especially if they do have discounts on other services that your friends are already using. But I think the bigger orange pill is going to be like the new experiences that this technology enables. Because you've always been able to get like gift cards at discounts at like different weird retailers and whatnot. Like that's not really new. But when we think about micropayments, we think about the creator economy. We think about being able to buy like fractions of things. Like I think a really big orange pill is going to be when Dorsey gets his act together over at Tidal, and it's like, okay, now let me stream stuff on like a per stream basis. Let me stream Jay-Z's Blueprint for 5,000 sats. Let me listen to, the track Heart of the City for 300 sats and be done with it. Like that's where the real like eye-opening is happening. Like let's facilitate the economic interactions that weren't possibly that couldn't have possibly happened like on traditional rails on your Visa cards or your MasterCards, just because the cost of doing a transaction is so high. That's what I think is like more of an orange pill moment.
There's a couple of things that I'm keeping my eye on that I think really effectively deliver that orange pill. The first one is the discounts, as you mentioned, Chaz. The combination that I like the most is Strike plus Purse.io, because I'm making Amazon purchases through Purse and I'm able to get 33% off. So, and I can fund that account using Strike. And if you do it like that, then just the fact that you are passing through Bitcoin to go from dollars to goods, that saves you 33%. Like that's huge to me. And so I can make an on-chain transaction to fund the Purse account. The Purse doesn't have Lightning yet, but like that's effective. And then they already have like Strike downloaded, so they can still participate in the Lightning economy without. And then they have all the Bitcoin buying functions as well. The other one, I started working at Carrot. Like earncarrot.com a while ago with helping out with their routing node. But what Carrot added is that you can basically check there for Carrot codes. And they also added a function where you can read any of the articles from Bitcoin Magazine And for every article that you read, they pay you 5 sats, which you can withdraw to your own Lightning wallet. So with that setup, then you have people that maybe weren't interested in Bitcoin, and they're just like having their first experience with it, and getting paid tiny amounts, which I think is pretty amazing, because like Carrot is actually paying the reader for reading their content, and then Bitcoin Magazine is able to like get some money from ads that are on the website, which pay for those sats that you're receiving. So you get the cool Bitcoin content, you're getting orange pills with the things that you're reading, and then you're also getting the experience of receiving Lightning payments, and then you can withdraw to your own wallet. So like those two, so like through Carrot app and then through Strike and Purse, you get to enjoy those discounts. Like those are two things that like actually like practicable things that you can do to get exposure to Bitcoin, have a little bit of the experience, and then kind of convince yourself that, oh man, there's a lot of potential here that I'm not seeing from like banks that aren't innovating and are still cutting people out of the system.
Yeah, Purse is definitely one I used back when it first launched, and before Bitcoin Cash was a thing, because after they were a bit more leaning towards the Bitcoin Cash camp, naming their node implementation Bcoin for lulz. But I feel like they almost closed down before too, because it sounded like they weren't making a lot of revenue, and they weren't like it just seemed like I believe the main guy was Andrew Lee, or maybe I'm off on that, but I think that's right. And I just doesn't feel like they're putting the same level of effort as maybe a Fold is, or a Bitrefill is even. It feels like both of those companies are like going hard on their marketing spend and the rest of that. It seems like Purse is kind of okay being a quiet little company, like facilitating these Bitcoin buys and sells. Like I'm sorry, we're kind of going over right now of our usual 2 hours, but have you not to kind of side rail us here, but have you been concerned at all on Purse with their setup? Because basically you're having someone else, buy something on their Amazon account in exchange for Bitcoin, and they take a pretty big hit. So 33% to buy quote unquote KYC Bitcoin. Do you think that makes sense? Like, do you think that there's like more fraud at play? Because that was the big thing back in the day, that people were saying that Amazon was shutting down their account because they were, getting people buying gift cards and then charging back and doing crazy stuff like that.
I'm sure there's some fraud that plays into it. Let's see. There's some things that have occurred to me. So one is that some people that like do some like turking behavior, or like some turking jobs, some of those actually get paid in Amazon gift cards, and I would want to ditch those as fast as I possibly could. So I would be willing to take a hit to like go into a better currency, and 30% wasn't out of the question in early Bitcoin days. Of course, now you can get it at a lot lower premiums, but it still kind of depends on what country you're in, or what types of Bitcoin buying services you have access to. So there is that. Yes, people could be paying with like stolen credit cards. That's a thing. But another thing to keep in mind is Paxful sometimes actually has gift cards that to like Amazon for like 40% off. So if that's the case, if you can get them for 40% off, and then you're using them on Purse for 33% off, like that's an arbitrage opportunity. And I would take those deals. Of course, like I'm not an earner on Purse, but I really do enjoy the service and the fact that like the goods actually show up and I pay with Bitcoin, and it's kind of like an early Silk Road type experience. You pay the Bitcoin, it's this magic internet money, and the drugs show up or whatever you're buying.
That's the one downside. Not to spend too much time on Purse, sorry everybody, but the one downside is if your item doesn't show up, going through Amazon to try to get your stuff back, some kind of credit, is a lot more difficult when it's not your account. So anyway, so I'm kind of done on that topic. If you guys kind of want to close out the show there, I'll leave it up to you.
Yeah, I'm going to have to hop off, but this was a fantastic conversation. I really enjoyed it. Very casual. We got to talk about El Salvador, QR codes, NFC, updates on Zeus, as well as orange pilling your friends and node growth and our thoughts on that.
Yeah, it was a great rip. Loved to get your insights on El Salvador. That's awesome. Got to get down there. I am really hungry for some pupusas paid for with sats. Yeah, hopefully get down there.
They were so good.
Yeah, I got to get down there. But yeah, thanks for everyone for tuning in. We're gonna try to get back on a more regular cadence with these, and yeah, that's all I got. Hope you guys check out the new Zeus if you guys run full nodes. And yeah, Chaz, you want to close us out?
I would just want to make sure everyone's aware of a Zeus wallet. Make sure to go ahead and download Zeus wallet. Don't forget about Amboss.space. This is the best Lightning Network Explorer you could possibly use. It's Amboss.space. And also Lightning Junkies. We're going to have a new episode next week. Nudge, nudge, cat, nudge, nudge. With Andre and Andre, I can't remember his last name, but Andre from Zebedee that does the Lightning address stuff, and Fiat Jeff. So I hope you guys look out for that. But at this point, I want to go ahead and say, I'll see you on the Lightning Network.